Hello everyone, this is Tim, and this is going to be a video response to Runeslinger, or Anthony Boyd. So he has been putting out videos about quality, and it's like a running joke with me. I've always said that I'm more about quantity over quality, because in a lot of ways I kind of half-ass things, for instance, video making. There's no filters here, it's just me hitting record, literally holding the camera in front of me, my cell phone, and just kind of speaking from the cuff, anything that pops into my head, which is often, semi-coherent. I think I could probably word things in a better way, but that's just how I've done things. It's just my way. I have a sort of lack of ambition in a lot of regard to things, the ways I've done things over the years. Like, I'll have ideas. I'm more of an idea guy, like Dave Arneson, who doesn't have a lot of follow through. So when I actually do finish something, it kind of like blows my mind. Like, I actually finished that. Wow, and I am proud of those moments. Like, for instance, Mercanto's Lair is a little systemless adventure that I had put together, and it's basically just ideas that popped in my head as I was watching other videos. Thinking about what would a dungeon crawl look like if I tried to publish one, and then I just tried to put that into place. In hindsight, there's a lot of things that I wish weren't in there. I could think of better ways to do things now, but I wouldn't have come up with those opinions without trying to do it in the first place. So the reason this is a video response to Runeslinger is about quality and how difficult it is to communicate, really, via words, getting those concepts that are up here and them not losing any meaning by transferring them into words on paper, and then you reading them, because we have different experiences, different things that have happened to us, different cultures. We live in different societies or states or countries, so a lot of that influences the way that we communicate with one another and understand things. So it's really hard. It's really hard to communicate those ideas clearly and have them make sense. For instance, things like passive voice. I use that like crazy. I use a lot of things that I think are considered metal English. Just of the, and just unnecessarily like complicated strings of words that you could say something in a more direct fashion, and I'm not a very direct person. I tend to be very passive, and I beat around the bush, and that comes out in my language too, especially in my writing. And part of that feels natural to me, and part of that way that I write just feels correct. Like, I don't want to take on airs. I want to have my author voice be evident. I want books that I write to sound like I wrote them and not somebody else. So it's tough, like going through a writing process with Mercanto's Lair, especially, where I would write something, send it off, it'd come back, and it wouldn't even sound like the same thing. But to that other person, that made more sense. That was more clear, and they were really trying to improve that which I had originally written. And that can be kind of a bitter pill for authors to swallow, that you're not good enough. Your writing is not clear enough. It wasn't understandable. So if you're an author out there, I suggest the same thing like Anthony's saying, is really take to heart any feedback you get from your created efforts, from your projects, your adventures, your systems, settings, whatever you're writing out there, whatever you're creating. Because it's not their goal to crap all over your project. Their goal is to make it better, to make it more understandable, to make it more useful at the table. And there's things too that like errors that creep in because of that process, especially if there's a lot of different people in the works. Like, for instance, in Mercanto's Lair, there was a period of time where I believe 5 rooms got omitted, like the descriptions, the NPCs, the monster stats, everything, from 5 different sections of the dungeon. And the only way that was noticed, like I had read through it I don't know how many times, and I didn't notice it. My editor, the layout guy, they didn't notice it either. It was just me sharing the document early on. Like, hey, this is getting close to publication. It'd be great to have some more eyes on this. And one of my friends from my local gaming club's like, hey, where are rooms number, 25 through 30? I looked for those, I didn't see them. And I just couldn't believe it. They were just not in the document. At some point, I think, they were taken out to work on with the goal of putting them back in, and they never got put back in. So that's a perfect example of how it's good to have a lot of different people looking at your document and giving feedback and giving pointers. And I really tried to thank anyone who had anything to do with that at all in the thank you section, which got kind of pretty big there. So writing. Let me talk about that. I'm not a very strong, natural writer. I don't do very well with the written word. I love to read, and I think that has helped me become a better writer. And I do write a lot, but not necessarily in the form you might expect. Like I do a lot of comments and forum posts and social media posts and things now, where I think my writing has improved a little bit because of that. I do like to include complete sentences, and I try to read back over everything that I type, but sometimes I'm tired. So I think those have helped, but when it comes down to a complex pile of words, just this massive multi-page, behemoth, it really overwhelms me. I'm surprised Mercanto's Lair got published. I'm surprised that I got through that whole process, and I really wouldn't have done that without Andre Martinez. He was the layout guy. Guys like Matt Click and Runeslinger, Anthony Boyd, a couple other guys too had looked at the text and gave me some pointers. And it's interesting having done that in the past. It's such a difficult process that I wonder why or how anyone really goes back and does it again. I am trying to. I've got 2 other projects that are in the work. One's like a mini setting slash adventure that is 200 pages. It's ridiculous. And it's so big that I don't even know where to start to go back and work on it again. And I wish I had more focus. I wish I had more dedication and that I scheduled time to write. Because it sounds like those people who are most, more like Gary Gygax, get stuff done. I don't really get stuff done. I have ideas, I'll obsess over them for a little while. Even these things that I've been posting recently, my maps and things, I'll be all about them for a week or so, and then I just completely lose interest, and it's very frustrating for me. But I've tried to fight it. I've tried to schedule. I'm just not a very scheduled person. I'm very chaotic, and I just have to go with whatever flow is flowing out of me, whatever creativity is currently burning up my brain. Because if I fight it, it doesn't seem to work. So I'm sure I would be very frustrating to work with because of that. I'm very all or nothing. With Mercanto's Lair, a lot of that was done probably, I would say, 2 weeks worth of dedicated work, but it was kind of spaced out. My maps, it's the same thing, a week or 2 of dedicated work. Suffering the Moth Queen is my one of the 2 projects that I'm currently tinkering on when I get motivated. It's an adventure where there's a dysfunctional relationship between a king and a queen, and the king horribly disfigures and mutilates his wife, his queen, but keeps her alive, and she's in pain, and then all these micro worlds are populated from her parts. So it's disturbing. It tries to put a spotlight on abuse, and a difficult subject, obviously, but it's something that I wanted to delve into, mainly because of my childhood and things that have gone there. So it's kind of cathartic in a way. I think for me to write about difficult topics, it lets me work on them in like a safe environment. Using creativity and imagination. Anthony talked about art. I did a lot of art for the original Mercanta's Lair. For Suffering the Moth Queen, I did hire a couple people to put out art. And they produced that. So I have all this art for this thing that's basically just like sitting on my hard drive, and it kind of like mocks me. There's that period of writing where like you just despise the thing that you're trying to create, and that's where I'm at with that project. I despise it. I even tried to bring in a couple other writers to help me out, and they did to a limited extent. But I think they were like me too, where they just couldn't. Like they would have really great ideas, and then the well would just dry up, and they wouldn't have anything else to supply to that concept. So, yeah, I'm working on a system too. 18 Inches of Blood, it started out as a D100 / OSR thing. I think it's moving towards a 1D10 roll high system with like a range of successes depending on the difficulty of what's happening. So it's a little bit like the Lamentations of the Flame Princess skill system, but instead of using a D6, use a D10. And in that system, you roll low with Lamentations, and I want to roll high. So just the way to describe that mechanic in and of itself is difficult, So that's something that I have to tinker around and work on. And like, what do I actually want, from it? Because it's about 100 pages or so. And again, it's kind of getting unwieldy, and I'm starting to hate it. So, yeah. So that's a little bit about writing. Art. I know that there's other dedicated artists out there that do much better at scheduling time, having journals and notebooks that they fill with sketches and then make more, fully realized